So yesterday you may have seen this article released stating EHCP shake-up considered as part of SEND reforms, advisor confirms. So they're talking about how the country's not coping with the number of students that have an education healthcare plan. And because of how much they've rocketed, how many have now been issued, they're not fit for purpose anymore. Local authorities aren't coping with the demand. Schools are struggling to facilitate the requests within them, etc. They're talking about stripping it all back and keeping EHCPs just to students within specialist provision. Articles like this are really frustrating. They scaremonger, they fear. None of this is in place. None of this is based on consultation. It's based on a quote and opinion. So firstly, I'd say take a deep breath. It's not illegal, it's just discussion. I always try and give a balanced view. Obviously, for those who don't know me, I am neurodivergent myself, I'm a SEND parent, and I'm a SEND teacher. So I will try and give balanced views where I can. I do agree that it's not working. I think we can all agree it's not working. The whole education system, not just for SEND children, it's not working for anybody. You know, many teachers are on their knees, schools are underfunded, they're unsupported. It's not working. I don't personally believe that the education system is in line with any modern society, any modern science. The whole thing needs to change. National curriculum needs to change. The way schools are expected to run and function needs to change. It hasn't, in my opinion, progressed very much since schools were first designed. So I think EHCPs are just a small part of this. I see it as a much bigger issue that I think everything needs to change. If EHCPs are given out too freely, then they no longer serve the purpose that they were created for. So I agree with that. I don't agree with if a student has been identified with having additional needs, whether that's care needs, health needs, education needs. I don't agree they should have that whipped away and nothing else in place. If they want to remove EHCPs, they have to come up with an effective alternative, because those children with additional needs, whether they've been identified by a professional or not, because we're talking about a lot of students here that can't get an EHCP because the system is failing them. So we're talking about students with and without EHCPs. If there are students with identified needs, we can't whip away for those children that have got that legal document, those identified needs, and then just expect them to disappear. Of course they don't disappear. So unless they're talking about strategies much higher up that will be implemented, then nothing is going to change. I do believe schools need to be much better educated on reasonable adjustments and what inclusion actually looks like. If you were to ask 50 different schools, what does inclusion mean to you and how do you demonstrate inclusive practice? My opinion is you would probably get 50 very different answers. And there's the problem. There is no consistency or expectation of what inclusion actually is. So if government was to support all schools and all educators to better understand and have a definitive expectation of what inclusion is, it would have a knock-on effect. If schools were to have better understanding and expectation of what reasonable adjustments are, how they should be implemented, class sizes should be reduced, classrooms should be sensory friendly, low arousal, so that more students can access them. National curriculum should change so that it strikes students' interests and students' skills and abilities and talents rather than stifling them. if schools were to understand behaviour as communication, so students are nurtured and supported rather than punished, all these things would have a knock-on effect to how well a student can access education. So if it changes for the better at the top, obviously further down the line, there is going to be less demand on the local authorities in terms of issuing an expensive legal document. So I do agree there needs to be changes. There needs to be huge changes. I don't think it's as simple as what they're saying as removing EHCPs and just keeping them to students that are within specialist provision, because you've got an incredible amount of students in mainstream school who are both diagnosed and undiagnosed with EHCPs and without EHCPs that desperately need support. And they cannot make what is already not working any worse. There has to be an alternative. There has to be. So I'm really sorry to everybody that has been made to stress, worry, fear over this. It's not right. And this level of journalism just is frustrating. It doesn't offer the productivity that we need. So I'm really sorry to anybody that's affected. And try and keep hope and faith. We advocates and SEND parents will keep speaking and will keep advocating for the right change, for the positive change, When things can't get any worse, surely they can only get better. One can hope.